So you might be wondering why I'm starting on the Houston Astronauts page, and in today's video we are going to be talking about, can anyone replicate the Florida Panthers? And the only reason we can do it with Houston is because they might get added to the NHL, and also this number right here, and no tax at all. Now we're not going to do any simulation or anything sort of, but we're just going to see if we can build a team that is similar to the back-to-back champions, the Florida Panthers. Here are the jerseys and everything. Now my thoughts on game 6, I don't know, man. Edmonton, I feel like some of them were battling a lot of injuries. I'm sure Florida players were too. However, I felt like Edmonton, they just felt like they just knew it was over. They didn't really put much of a showing out there. It's embarrassing. It's unfortunate. At the same time, I mean, what are you going to do when you run into a juggernaut like that? There's not much you can do, and the Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. Now, I will say, those of you who are like glazing Sam Bennett, saying, I'd rather have a guy like Sam Bennett than McDavid, than Draisaitl. Oh my goodness, Sam Bennett's 2-incher is so far down your throat. It is crazy. Sam Bennett would literally put up 30 points in the whole entire season on the Oilers if you replaced him with McDavid. Even if he played every single game with Draisaitl, he may crack 55 points, maybe 60 if he gets a couple lucky ones. Sam Bennett would get more games suspended than points. I'm telling you right now. I don't know how this conclusion came that he's one of the top 20 players in the NHL. He did have Conn Smythe. I will put respect on his name. He's a very good player, but I've never seen a player go from so underrated to so overrated this quickly. Literally that. Speaking of that, that is how fast you should click that subscribe button, man. Come on, what are you doing? Okay, enough yapping. Let's talk about this Florida Panthers team. I mean, 3 straight finals is nothing to laugh at. Now, Gary Bettman does have a lot to do with this. However, I mean, it's not 3 straight is crazy. Tampa and Florida, the state of Florida does run hockey, but as soon as Bettman retires, we all know what's going to happen. Both of these teams are going to go to trash, and the Canadian teams will start winning. Unfortunately, we have to wait for that. Who knows how long it's going to be. Maybe he'll be like Trump and Biden and go until he's 80 years old, you know what I'm saying? But we'll see what happens. But I mean, man, this Florida Panthers team is good. So let's take a look at how they built this team, and then we're going to try and build a team like this on our own. Okay, so let's just go by overalls. The first player is Alexander Barkov, the captain, Sasha Barkov. This dude has been an incredible, point per game, two-way centerman, one of the most elite players in the NHL. This is what happens when you have a top 3 pick and you hit on that top 3 pick. You can get a player like Sasha Barkov, a captain, a guy who can play in both ends, a guy who can play every situation. Look at these X factors. Yoink. I mean, X factors aren't the best way to go about it, but look at the variance in ability here. He's got some deking, he's got some shooting, he's got face-offs, he's got defensive X factors. He has no passing X factors, which is interesting because he's a great playmaker. However, I mean, we have to try and find a guy like Barkov. Now, I think in the most recent drafts, there's 2 players who come to mind. Now, Barkov is a 95 overall, so it's kind of hard to, do this, because obviously these newer players have not hit a 95 overall. But I think Quinton Byfield could be an option. He is a great defensive player, but I think the most obvious one is Matty Beniers. Now, Matty Beniers may not have the offensive ceiling right now as Sasha Barkov, but I mean, Barkov wasn't, incredible offensively early in his career, and I mean, the thing is, Barkov, early in his career, he was obviously a really talented player to go 2nd overall. What I meant to say with that is his offensive ceiling wasn't viewed as this level he could get to. I mean, look at these stats. They're okay, right? And then he really breaks out in his 3rd year, and then he really breaks out again here, and then he just continually gets better, which is insane. Obviously, getting more power play time, getting more ice time helps, but I mean, he like, Beniers has such a head start on him defensively. He really molded his defensive game around the later he got in his career, and I mean, the offense was always incredible, but his well-roundedness, he developed it later, and his offense wasn't even like all worldly to start with. So I think Matty Beniers has a big head start on him on the defensive side of the puck. Now I will say Matty Beniers' offense isn't looking great 4 years into his career, but there's potential. He put up 57 points as a rookie 3 years into his career, my bad. So I'm gonna say Matty Beniers is our Sasha Barkov. You get a second round pick, right? You turn him into this defensive two-way monster, Matty Beniers. We'll see how that turns out. Now, one thing I will say, I am going off what these players were when they acquired them, which is a lot different than what these players are now. For example, next up is Sam Reinhart. Now, Sam Reinhart is a 93 overall. He scored 57 goals last year, and he also scored in the last 4 games of the Cup Finals, I'm pretty sure, after kind of a shaky playoffs. But Sam Reinhart, obviously a second overall pick, very, very talented player, got to Buffalo, had a pretty good rookie season, it had a breakout 2019 season, and then kind of plateaued. As you see here, I mean, he's a great goal scorer, but he comes to Florida, he starts putting up massive point numbers, and also not only does his point numbers absolutely skyrocket, his defensive game turns up a notch, a big notch. This dude has become one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL, especially this year and last year. But Sam Reinhart, absolute beauty. I still don't know why he's listed as a playmaker. Like, he can definitely pass the puck, but we need to find a guy that's like a second overall pick, third overall pick kind of guy who's had some okay years, but just needs to go to a new scenery to break out. And I think that's pretty obvious, man. The number one player on everyone's mind is, again, from the Seattle Kraken, and that is, where is he? Kaapo Kakko. Now, Kaapo Kakko is an 83 overall, so he's a bit worse than Sam Reinhart probably was. But Kaapo Kakko in real life had a season similar to Sam Reinhart. I think it was 40 points in 59 games. And I mean, he's a second overall pick. I mean, the pick doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but he already has a decent defensive game. So, maybe he's a bit ahead of Reinhart in that department. Maybe not as great offensively. But when he went to Seattle, he actually looked very, very good in Seattle. So, maybe there's a bit of Sam Reinhart in him for a late season, a late career resurgence. He's not really a bust, but he's not really been a good second overall pick, but I think he can turn it around. We have 2 Seattle Kraken here, and let's see, maybe there'll be some more in the future. But next up, of all the players, we have Matthew Tkachuk. Now, Matthew Tkachuk obviously arrived in a trade for Jonathan Huberdeau in a season that Matthew Tkachuk scored 104 points with the Calgary Flames. But Jonathan Huberdeau let's go check this out. Jonathan Huberdeau potted 115 points that year. And I mean, you traded Jonathan Huberdeau for Matty Tkachuk to try and build this, no skill offense that the Florida Panthers have with great defensive, hard-working forwards. And I mean, it worked out because Jonathan Huberdeau didn't have guys like Barkov to play with, and then he kind of fumbled. And then you also traded Mackenzie Weegar, which is another crazy move. But I guess it worked out in the end because you had to pay him, and they didn't want to pay him. They didn't feel like it was worth it to pay him. But we need to find a guy like Matty Tkachuk, who is on the trade block, a superstar borderline player who can reach that superstar level. Maybe just maybe needs to change his scenery, maybe needs a new system, and I think that guy is on the Dallas Stars, and that is Jason Robertson. Now, Jason Robertson, not the best skater, but a big body. Maybe not the hardest working player, but Matthew Tkachuk wasn't as much of a dog as he was a dog, but he wasn't as hardworking, as relentless, as relentless as he is in Florida. And I mean, Jason Robertson he's not the best skater, but he put up a crazy 109 points. If a team trades for him, they are getting an elite offensive talent who has one of the best shots in the game. So there's a chance that Jason Robertson scores a ton of goals, a ton of points in a new system. And I think that he is the closest thing to Matthew Tkachuk, not playstyle wise, but when they acquired him, kind of buying low on a guy who just had a career year. It's who won't sign a contract. It's pretty crazy. Also, they just traded Mason Marchment to the Kraken, which was interesting. We'll talk about that one on a later episode. But next up is Brad Marchand. Now, these are EA's rosters, by the way. Don't come at me. But Brad Marchand is an 89 overall, and they obviously required an old man at the trade deadline who, maybe was playing on a selling team and maybe forced his way to Florida. But, he plays both ways. He knows how to win. He's a winner. He's done it before. He's made cup finals before, and now he's won his second Stanley Cup. And it's not really a one-for-one comparison, but the best old player that I could find that had a similar points record is Evgeny Malkin, 89 overall. If we look at his contract, we can't see it, but next season he'll be on the last year of his deal in Pittsburgh. Maybe he'll re-sign with Pittsburgh, I don't know, but a guy who just puts up 70 points ish, just a guy who's going to do all the little things right. He knows how to win. He's a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. I mean, he is an absolute superstar in his prime, and he's looking to ring chase. And I think that Malkin fits kind of the Brad Marchand player type of where they got him. If a team gets him next year, I wouldn't be surprised if they win a chip. Alright, next up, we all know as Bob, Sergei Bobrovsky. And there's not really a goalie like Sergei Bobrovsky. So for this one, I went fully stats. I tried to find a player who had a very similar statistical line to Sergei Bobrovsky when he got signed by Florida for 10 years, over $7 million. And I think the closest to 37, 24, 913, 258 was on the Minnesota Wild with Philip Gustafsson. Now, Phil Gustafsson obviously, has, potential if he hit the free agent market to make, not 10 mil, but I'm sure there would be some team who would overpay for his services. Obviously, one of the top goalies in the league this year, an 88 overall in the game. Maybe he could get overpaid like Bob, and it'll eventually pay out. It's not the most perfect, but Gustafsson has 31-19, and he also has a 914 save percentage, so I think it's the closest thing. So we've built the star players. Next up, Seth Jones. This is an interesting one, an overpaid player on a bad team who, maybe in a different area shows better. So many people were calling Seth Jones overrated. They were putting him in the Darnell Nurse category. And now that he's won a cup, everyone has silenced and brought Seth Jones back into those big-time defenseman conversations. And I think a guy who could do something very similar is on the trade block is Dougie Hamilton as well. A bigger defenseman, a big offensive puck-moving defenseman who can play on your number one power play, play on your second pair, and he's going to be overpaid, but boy, if he hits, it'll be worth it. Dougie Hamilton, I mean, I still remember when this dude was traded on draft night, to the Flames, and then he got traded, or he got moved to Carolina, and now he's on New Jersey. He's going to be on his fifth team already. Time flies, but Dougie Hamilton which I think he's the closest thing to Seth Jones. And this is at the time that they were acquired, not right now. So basically, you're looking at Capo Caco turning it from an 83 into a 93, 94 overall player, like a 57 goal guy. Like, this is how crazy the odds were against them. Matty Beniers turning into a 95 overall, basically. Jason Robertson turning into a, like, if we look at Matty Tkachuk's, 2023 and 2024 playoff runs, like, basically turning into that. You know what I mean? It's not one for one, but Malkin and Marchand, I can see something like that. Gustafson and Bob, I can see something like that. Hamilton and Jones, I can also see something like that. But the other three, the odds are stacked against them. Next up, the most unlikely one, Gustav Forsling. This is the craziest story. I don't know how the hell this happened. This is a once-in-a-lifetime player. How do you go from being a free agent waiver pickup to now becoming one of the best defensemen in the league? Look at this. Look at this. Gustav Forsling, a 5th-round pick, goes to Chicago, puts up, 5 points on a bottom pair. Let's just check minutes played. 14 minutes. Then he goes up to 19 minutes on Chicago. Then he goes down to 17 minutes. He goes down to the AHL, gets put on waivers. Then he joins Florida and plays 20 minutes a night. Okay, let's play him a bit more. Plus 41, 37 points. No biggie. Just play him a bit more. 41 points. Just play him a bit more. Plus 56 with 39 points. Gustav Forsling has turned into one of the best defensemen in the NHL. And this is a crazy one, by the way. This is basically the closest thing to what Gustav Forsling was. So if we go to the Hartford Wolfpack, I don't know why I went all the way down. I just missed them. The Hartford Wolfpack. And if we scroll down to our boy here, Robertson. Matthew Robertson. This was basically what Gustav Forsling was. Now, Matthew Robertson, he was a 2nd-round pick by the New York Rangers in 2019, and it is interesting. So here are his AHL stats so far in his career. But if we take a look at Matthew Robertson did this year, his exact stats are the exact stats that Gustav Forsling put up in, what am I doing? Go to the NHL. What Gustav Forsling put up in the NHL is exactly, or in the AHL this season he got waived, is exactly close to what Matthew Robertson is putting up. Similar ages as well, so 26 points in 57 games. And Matthew Robertson, this is what Gustav Forsling was, and he turned into that. Will Matthew Robertson do that? I don't know, but there's a chance, I guess. Now, the odds are stacked against our boy Matthew Robertson, but this one's even crazier. Carter Verhaeghe. I mean, this dude was a Tampa Bay Lightning player, a Stanley Cup champion, obviously, technically, right? But he played a 4th-line role, AHL the whole way, plays 9 minutes, gets a Stanley Cup. Then he goes, to the opposite side of the state, my bad. And then he joins a President's Trophy winning team, putting up 55 points. Then he scores 42 goals out of nowhere. Then he scores 72 points and wins a cup. And he wins another cup this year. And he has 3-game winners, 4-game winners, 3-game winners. One of the most clutch players in NHL history, no joke. And Carter Verhaeghe, guess who's very similar to him in terms of, potential and all that. From the Seattle Kraken again. This is the first line of the Florida Panthers. Ty Cartier. Now, Ty Cartier's stats are very similar to what Carter Verhaeghe put up in Tampa Bay, and the age is very similar. And Carter Verhaeghe somehow turned from Ty Cartier, an 80 overall 23-year-old with top 9 potential, into an 87 overall player. And this is not even his prime. Next player we have is Aaron Ekblad, a once in a generation defenseman, said to be the first overall pick in the OHL draft, the first overall pick in the NHL draft. While he may have not lived up to that exceptional status, prowess, Aaron Ekblad has been one of the top defensemen in the NHL since he stepped foot in the league. And there is a player in the OHL draft who is going number 1 this year from the Erie Otters, Matthew Schaefer. And it is not a direct comparison, but this was Aaron Ekblad apparently. Matthew Schaefer, 75 overall by EA Sports. Aaron Ekblad would have been a bit better, I assume. They're not similar players at all, but this is the first overall defenseman since Rasmus Dahlin, and the first overall defenseman from Canada since Aaron Ekblad. So Rasmus Dahlin's a bit too good. He's become his own player. Matthew Schaefer is technically following in Aaron Ekblad's shadow. He was the last player from the OHL from Canada who's a defenseman to get drafted first overall. So this is what Aaron Ekblad, he went from 75 overall to an 87 overall. That's why I think it's weird when players say it, like the Florida or not players, people say that the Florida Panthers didn't really deserve their cups. It's rigged. I know I literally said that at the start of the video. I'm joking, even though it is rigged to an extent. Obviously, we all know that Gary Bettman and the refs' favorite team is the Panthers and the Golden Knights and the Lightning. But the Lightning is a bit far down compared to those other two teams. Now it is the Florida Panthers for sure. But man, like, as much rigged as it is, this team is still a very good team. And next up is Sam Bennett, a 4th overall pick. I mean, think about this team, bro. You have a 2nd overall pick, 6th overall pick. I mean, one of the greatest players to ever play, one of the greatest goalies to ever play, a Vezina winner. You have a 4th overall pick. You have a 1st overall pick, exceptional status, and you have a 4th overall pick, and then you have a 10th overall pick. So it makes sense why this team's good. They have so many lottery picks, but a lot of them weren't theirs. They picked up guys like Sam Bennett in trades and turned him from whatever the hell this is into a Conn Smythe winner. Player right now most similar to Sam Bennett, who went from an offensive juggernaut into a two-way power forward demon. And I mean, the player who put up the most similar stats this year to Sam Bennett's 12 points is on the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't even think he's on the main roster. That is absolutely devious. Is he in the AHL? He must be on the Henderson Silver Knights. And he's right there. Alexander Holtz. Holtz, he's a fully offensive player, a former top 10 pick, top 7 pick. He has a great shot. He has great skills, but to stick in the NHL, he's going to have to transform his game into a two-way beast. And that's what Sam Bennett did. And I mean, this guy has 12 points in the league right now. He's a former high draft pick. So Alex Holtz, Sam Bennett went from this when he joined Florida to this. This is what I'm saying. This is how unlikely this team is. This team that I have on the right is the exact same team as like when they joined Florida on the left. They have all just become way better. Next up is our boy Anton Lundell. What a luxury to have a third line center who's 22 years old, and probably if he went to another team he could be a first line center. But Anton Lundell, I mean, the most similar player to Anton Lundell, right now is, in terms of points and stuff, is a guy like Cole Sillinger. Now, it's hard to, quantify it. In terms of pure points, Cole Sillinger is the exact, a little bit more than Lundell this season, I'm pretty sure. However, Cole Sillinger's two-way game isn't as refined as Anton Lundell. He's not as big as Anton Lundell. But Cole Sillinger, I mean, this is what Anton Lundell would be if he was on a bad team, pretty much. He might be better because he would have more points. He might be worse because he's not playing with as good players. We don't really know, but all we do know is Anton Lundell is an absolute beast, and I think Cole Sillinger is on a similar, not the same, but he could be a similar, caliber, an elite third liner, a pretty good second liner, and a lower end complimentary first liner. You guys, the dude who came from the Colorado Avalanche, he came from the Pittsburgh Penguins, Buffalo Sabres, bounced across a bunch of teams. There's a lot of Buffalo players on Stanley Cup champions, and Evan Rodriguez is obviously one of them. He had 2 seasons of 39 points, a season of 43 points, obviously a great playoff player. Didn't have the greatest 2025 playoffs, but I mean, it doesn't matter. He's just a guy who plays up and down the lineup. Is so versatile, great complimentary player, does everything good, not great. And I think Jack Roslovic fits that bill. Jack Roslovic has very similar numbers to Evan Rodriguez. If you made this an 82 game season, he'd have around, solid, I don't know, I can't do the math, like 53 points. Had 44 there, 45. He's a little bit higher scoring than Rodriguez. Obviously plays a bit more than Rodriguez, will play, higher on the power play numbers and stuff sometimes, like seasons like here and here. So, I mean, it's interesting. I don't, his defensive game, in my opinion, isn't as refined as Evan Rodriguez's, but Jack Roslovic turned into Evan Rodriguez, which is pretty much the same overall player. Only did, the top of the top, so Nate Schmidt's not here, but the next player is Eetu Luostarinen. Now, Eetu Luostarinen, he was a second round pick, and when he was on Carolina, he had 1 point, and then they shipped his ass off to Florida. He had 8 points in 44 games, and then he turned into an absolute beast on that third line next to Anton Lundell. The Finnish connection has turned into one of the greatest duos in, Florida Panthers history, which is crazy to say, but you guys as a franchise suck, except for the last 2 years, unfortunately. That's just the reality of it. Gary Bettman helping you guys out. Make sure you appreciate him while he's there, because when he's gone, it is going to be rough. But the player I see the most is Owen Beck. Owen Beck, a second round pick, a guy who, played 8 games in the NHL, had 1 point. I think he played 12 games or something like that. But this is kind of where Luostarinen was as a prospect. Like a guy who could just play up and down the lineup, never going to be that star player, just a hard-working, smart player. And, they're not really similar in play types. Luostarinen's a bit more aggressive of a player, but this is what Luostarinen turned into. This is what Owen Beck is going to turn into if he becomes Luostarinen. And also we have Niko Mikkola. I think this is one of the final players. I think this actually is the final player we have on the team. And this guy is actually, I think he's on the NHL roster, on the Nashville Predators. Niko Mikkola started as this guy right here, England. Man, this team, like, how the hell did this happen, bro? But Niko Mikkola, look at this. If we go all the way down, Niko Mikkola started out as an AHLer. Then he went to St. Louis, played after they won the cup, unfortunately. But he made the NHL team. He obviously got drafted by St. Louis. Then he went to the Rangers. And then he went to the Florida Panthers, and they won a Stanley Cup. He played big minutes on that Panthers team. But he played here with the Rangers at 3 points plus 4 in 31 games. Now, England's stats were strikingly similar to this. Obviously, they both hang their hat on the defensive side. They're both really big left shot bodies. And I think, they are very, like, this England turned into Mikkola, which is interesting. So, and then, just to, like, kind of prove our point here, we're just going to add all these guys, the bottom guys of the team, and then just fill out the roster and show you guys, how the team is looking. So we're going to edit a couple lines and come back here. For comparison, looks like the Florida Panthers team, when they all arrived, would have been 83 overall. So that is pretty awful. And here is how the lines look And this is how crazy this Florida Panthers story is. I don't know. I mean, their system is incredible. I think that's mainly the reason, right? Their system, but their pro scouting department deserves such a raise. Because look at this. This would have been their first line when they came. Now, obviously, Barkov's a second overall pick, right? Anything can happen, but you get Reinhardt. I mean, he's a second overall pick. You buy low on a player. It's like Seattle getting Kako, which is pretty similar. And then you get a guy like this, like Carter Verhage, and 80 over. Like, it's literally like just like those old Shell games where you have +5 Chemi, and then you just put them all together. Jason Robertson's here, but then you have, Roslovic and Bennett. I mean, Rodriguez and Bennett. I'm just switching it so it looks better because he's a center. But, I mean, this is basically what your second line was when you got them. And then they turned into what Florida has. Your third line, this is Losterainen. This is Lundell. This is Malk. Marchand, obviously. So here's your top nine. Is it a good top nine? Absolutely not. Did it become the best top nine in the league? Yeah. The defense core looks even worse. Obviously, there's Hamilton in the place of Seth Jones, but Matthew Schaefer's the number one overall pick. Ekblad's the number one overall pick. He's going to become half decent unless he's Yakupov. But then you have Robertson, who grew from a 73 at 23 to an 87 at 28 in Forsling. And you have a guy in England who's 76 at 28, who just grew to like a freaking 83 overall at 30. I forgot what it was, but that is absolutely insane. Here is the power play. I mean, this power play doesn't scream one of the best power plays in the league, but it is. It is. I'm telling you right now, I'm from the future. And then obviously Phil Gustafson, we know he's going to be good, you know what I'm saying? But this is that exact team, when they all hit their prime, when they all got the same growth and whatever. This is what the team became. Think about it. You had a 80, 84, 83. You had a 84. I mean, Rodriguez stayed the same, but you had a 80. You had a 89. You had a 76. You had a 82. And then, Malkin's an 89. But then you had a 73, a 75. I mean, Schaefer is just hard to say. A 76. Obviously an 89 in Hamilton, but they're around the same player. Vezina winner. But that is so crazy how good this team turned out. The last thing I do want to do is just check out the difference, the disparity in ratings. I don't think that's a word. Maybe I just made it up. I don't know, but we'll check out this Florida Panthers team first. And this Florida Panthers team is a 94 offense, 91 defense, and an 86 goaltending. And then for the Houston Astronauts, we are an 85 offense, 88 defense, 80 defense, and an 88 goaltending. So looks like the goaltending is a bit better. I mean, Bob's not in his prime anymore. Obviously, in his prime, he was a bit better, but I mean, we can give them that. Plus 9 on the offense, plus 11 on the defense is absolutely insane when you consider that the San Jose Sharks, who were like the worst team this year, they have a better defense by 4. Obviously, their goaltending is a lot worse, but their offense is pretty close. Let's check out the Chicago Blackhawks as well. Obviously, a team that people consider to be bad. I mean, their offense is the exact same. Their defense is the exact same. So they basically had the Chicago Blackhawks with Bob, and then they turned it into this. So will the Florida Panthers model happen again when teams try and copy it? No, I don't think so. I think this is a once-in-a-generation team because of how many underdog stories they had and how many players turned into superstars. So that is my take on the whole thing. I hope you guys enjoyed this, little demonstration as well instead of just talking about it. And I hope to see you guys in another video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.